What is going on, everybody? Happy whatever day you're watching this. BobbyFi and my man Rohde. We are going to be doing our NFL weekly picks for Week 13 in the NFL this season. Rohde, I know we have Car Rohde today because I know things are a little hectic lately. But how you doing? And how do you feel about the slate?
I'm liking some of the contests out there this weekend. It's definitely liking the slate. It's going to be a good one. There's some good teams out there. I think that we got this week that are in some good spots, and I think we should have a good week again. I think we're starting to have some good weeks. It's December. I've had a good start to December, so I'm hoping to keep it going. So
Likewise, man. I've been on a little little 3-week winning streak with good showdown results. So sort of like almost feels like 5 or 6 weeks. So I'm ready to keep it going and ready for one of us to take something down this week. We did our show, my show with Sheets the other day. We went game by game. We're going to be talking about our favorite games to target and our favorite stacks. Our favorite, and then we'll go by our favorite per position. Rohde, to start things off, what games are you looking at the heaviest this week? I can say, I think we have some questionable ones in the afternoon that I'd love to get into with you. But what are your sort of your main stacks? I'm going to guess you're going to say Chargers here.
yeah, I think that Chargers game looks good. Obviously, that's one of my favorites all the time. They've done well for me. My best ball lineup's killing it with the Charger stack. They've been good. Tampa Bay is probably going to get a lot of love this week. We got the other game that Minnesota probably gets some love this week, right? Indy against Houston. Indy's look pretty good. The Wentz lineups look good. Jonathan Taylor might have a big game, right? So we got some places you're going to get that you're going to want to target. Even Kyler Murray might play this week, right? He's still
Yeah,
questionable.
we're at last I heard we're leaning towards yes, but not absolutely sure.
Yeah, that I hate those updates. So
Yeah.
I don't mind Arizona. We're going to that Monday night Rams game, Arizona. So I'm hoping
Oh,
everyone's
nice.
for the live final FanDuel. That's next weekend. So that's gonna be fun.
Yep.
So
That's
so those
awesome.
are my main games. I think Seattle in that late game, they put an announcement out this week about targeting Metcalf more, but he's been kind of killing us this year, and Russell don't look as good. So I'm not sure I like these late games. You got the Rams, your team, I think would be a team to target in the late afternoon. You do got Baltimore, but I don't know. We'll have to discuss it here and see where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, like it's interesting because I like Cincy in the Chargers game. I like I mean, like the weirdest one I'm having trouble with, and it's only because I mean Wilson seems checked out, all this stuff. But I am interested still in this Seattle San Francisco game. Like, yeah, I mean, this is one team that Wilson's always dominated, by the way. He's 16-4 against them. They've had some big matchups though in the past, and it feels like at home maybe they get up for it, and you're going to get no ownership on guys like Metcalf and Lockett, and like I understand that it may have been a letdown, but I mean he's been awful, but I still have some interest in that stack. And then on the other side, I think San Francisco also will struggle a little bit without Debo. I mean, it's a big guy for them. That guy's, what is he, the first guy in history to have five rushing touchdowns, 5 receiving touchdowns from a wide receiver position. Anyway, but I love Eli Mitchell as the run back. I think Brandon Ayuk is going to make a whole lot of sense. Where is Brandon Ayuk? Did I miss something? Did I miss a bit of news? No, there he is. But
Oh,
like
there
Brandon
it
Ayuk
is,
at
yeah.
7.5% with no Samuel to muck it up a little bit. That's interesting to me. I just feel like this game is a really interesting game that could be a complete and total dud, and I could be totally off on it. But I don't think Seattle is going to let a team like San Francisco. I mean, there's a whole rivalry between these cities anyway. Like, I don't think they're going to let them just come in and beat the hell out of them. But at the same time, Wilson seems checked out, and that sort of has checked Metcalf out. But I really think it's an interesting spot. I think Arizona is an interesting game potentially. Not as a huge stack, but I think you have a cheap Montgomery on the other side. You have a Mooney who's no one's going to play, who just looks better by the week. And if Hopkins plays, I think you have an interesting, again, you just have the low owned Kyler Murray to Hopkins thing if it happens, if in fact they are playing. Tampa Bay has a skinny stack I like a little bit. I don't really think outside of Pitts it's a whole lot of guys you want to run back in that one. And then the Washington Vegas game, which I love both running backs. I love Antonio Gibson, and I love Terry McLaurin and as the wide receiver option, and I like Jacobs a little bit as a running back. Those are sort of my focused games. The one that we didn't mention that I was like toying with was Minnesota and Detroit. As ugly as Detroit is, as ugly as it is for Detroit, we are going to be playing players in this game, right? Like you have Jamal Williams at 5,400. That seems pretty reasonable to me. And on the other side, not maybe Madison, but on the receiving side, Justin Jefferson, and then no one ever plays Adam Thielen, and he's always a 2-touchdown threat. So that's sort of my breakdown. As of right now, I'm planning to have absolutely zero Jonathan Taylor in that Houston game. I just think I think playing a really chalky running back at 9,200. I don't care how good he is. He really has to go completely nuts like he did the other week for you to be hurt there. If he scores 25, you don't even like necessarily want or need him. Like I don't think 2,500, 25 is going to be enough with so many running back options this week. So that's where my sort of overall look on the slate is. And most heavy focus though will be Cincy, LA Chargers. I will have Tampa Bay skinny stacks, and I do think the Arizona and the Seattle San Francisco games are pretty interesting. So that's what I'm doing. Let's get into some plays at quarterback, because it's a week where I feel like it's, as usual, it's going to be fairly spread out. And I think Herbert and Brady are going to probably stand there. They are. So you can see ownership wise, thanks. Little shout out to Roto-Grinders HQ, lineup HQ. I like those guys quite a bit. I'm happy to pass on the Wentz thing, although I don't mind. Like I think there's an argument to be made for a stack there with Wentz to Pittman, and then you run it back with Cooks or something along those lines. Other quarterbacks that I like this week are going to end up probably. I'm going to probably do something stupid like throw a Mike Glennon lineup in, and I'm probably going to tell myself a minute later, you know what? I should just be playing the Miami defense. Other than that, though, my quarterbacks are in the games I mentioned. What quarterbacks are you looking at? Maybe in the games we mentioned or outside of it. Tyrod Taylor, I don't think is the worst play in the world either. So throw that out there as a weird play. Go ahead, Rohde.
Yeah, Taylor. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I did have a lineup with him last week. Jalen Hurts, another guy people don't ever talk about, has some good upside against the Jets there at 6%. I mean, that's a little bit lower than the Herbert and some of the guys we were mentioning. Cousins at 6% there too. Those guys are potential plays that I like getting in a stack, or Devontae Smith I like for the Eagles, and then I like no one's going to own Jefferson, I feel. So those games kind of we talked about. I'm going to stay pretty tight. I'm not going to make too many lineups. I like the Chargers. Definitely like that. I usually tend to be off Tom Brady, especially when he's chalkier. It has worked out in the past, but it also hasn't. So I know you like that stack, but you brought up Ben Roethlisberger here. He's been pretty cheap.
He's 5K. That's the only reason I brought him up. 5K for a guy who's going to throw the ball.
Ownership. Yeah. Deontay Johnson always gets a lot of balls, right? He looks good. And I kind of like Najee more in that game. I think at 4% ownership, a little priced up. But yeah, some of those QBs are good. That I like, I think Stafford's more on the list now too, right? Where's he at on that list?
Yeah, he's not going to be. I think he's fairly overlooked. Yeah, he's 4.8%. I think that's
only 7. I like the Stafford stack too. I feel like lately there's not as many run backs you guys need to put in your lineup. So just doing a Rams, skinny stack or something, you can get viable. Play a couple of cheaper running backs. You got Jamal cheap. So like Rams and Cup even makes sense. Maybe Cup has a big game, or there's the Van Jefferson. Right? Look pretty good last week in a stack. Those stacks were winning, taking down stuff last week, guys. So everyone's like, oh, we can't play Stafford because Cup's too expensive. But then on the top of the leaderboard, Stafford stacks are there. So don't forget to do that just because the options are expensive. Same with Jefferson at 8.2 at receiver. I mean, these guys have ceiling upside, what we want. Big game potential, out of some of these quarterbacks can throw it to really explosive weapons. That's why I like Herbert. They got explosive weapons.
I like the point you made just a minute ago, just about, we don't necessarily need to run back every stack. Like we don't need to run back against Tom Brady. We don't need to run back against Stafford. We don't need necessarily a run back against Jalen Hurts. It's an unusual week where I find myself looking more that way, but also partly it's been the nature of the games this season. You can really, really focus on your secondary stacks. I usually tend to like to do it with either quarterbacks with running upside or quarterbacks with some with maybe two receivers that I love or something. I don't have that exactly in these games, although I do like the Tampa Bay receivers. But I think this maybe will be the week where I'll tell you what's crazy, and like Aaron Rodgers, not to get into this whole thing, but Aaron Rodgers has obviously had an incredible season, and your Packers, and you as you know, going into this season and until week 10, and he started just talking out of both sides of his mouth. I was still an Aaron Rodgers fan up to that point. I still, as a player, think he's incredible. It's crazy to me that he's 6.5 to 1. He's got twice as bad odds as Brady to win the MVP. He should be the MVP right now. He should be the absolute MVP, and I don't think there should be a whole lot of discussion about it. Look at what happens without him. You know what I mean? Against the Chiefs, they couldn't move the ball a foot. Anyway, I just think that's a weird side rant. But running back wise, again, we have an absolute slew of options of guys who are probably going to be owned in similar, ranges. The first ones off the list for me are going to be Jonathan Taylor and Daryl Henderson. Henderson was fine last week. The truth is the Rams' big issues this year, they can't run the ball, and they built their team to as with possession receivers like Woods and Kupp. And honestly, it's really hurt them not to have Woods. I knew it would hurt them. I didn't realize it hurt them this much, but they still aren't getting the job done running. I understand the matchup is good, all that stuff. But I want to sort of jump down into the next tier of running backs, and then I'll let you go. I do like Mixon at 8,100. It's a lot to pay, but I've seen the Chargers just get absolutely carved up enough times. I really like Connor at 5,900 this week. I like Jamal Williams. I like David Montgomery, but I'd be a little lower on him than maybe the field will be. I like Eckler because of the game, but I will not play him outside of that game stack. I love Antonio Gibson. He's maybe my favorite receiver that I'll be overweight on this week. I love Eli Mitchell. And I like Josh Jacobs. So I'm skipping the main part of the chalk, the very top of the chalk, and then I'm going down to the next range. And Fournette, by the way, look, I know he's not going to have another week like he did last week, but against Atlanta running back, it's kind of tempting. So that's something I was considering doing as well. And then you get into the weird plays. I think your Najee Harris call is probably my favorite of the long shot plays this week. So I think I'm going to get involved in some of that. What running backs are you preferring this week?
You said a lot of the good ones there. We got no Cook this week, right? So Madison's priced up a little bit right out of the gate here, and he's going to get lower ownership because of that. But that guy seems to crush every time. He is the guy. I just don't get it. Madison's not chalky. He's expensive. I don't really want to pay that. I might not have one of him, but I just feel like that's the guy that I'm going to regret at the end of the day not having. Fournette's another guy that I had one lineup with him last week. He smashed. He's 7.3, priced up a lot more than he's been. He's getting a little bit of ownership and maybe not enough. That matchup I really do like. Some of the other guys, I said Jamal Williams is cheap. He's always been a favorite. He was a Packer. He had a great role catching pass out of the backfield. He got no Swift this week. I think that's a fantastic play. Obviously the Najee was a lower ownership play a little bit for me. I don't mind the Gibson. You still got what is it, Barkley in that game that's running cheap? 6.3 for Barkley, isn't bad in that game. I just, that stack, maybe Waddle does it again, right?
He's all good
Barkley,
to go.
Waddle stack or something.
Yeah.
Secondary.
Just beware with Barkley that this is, they have nothing, they don't have a lot to play for anymore. And, it'd be nice to have a game, but it's a road game. It's against a good defense. And I don't know how much he'll play. I think this is like, you want to get the guy ready. It's unfortunate it happens every year, but he keeps getting injured. Why wouldn't you use this time to maybe get him some split back carries? I just think strategically they're not going to try to overuse Barkley at this time of the year, especially on the road. Just because
totally agree. So that just might be kind of a lower own flyer if you want to get really weird. But I haven't liked Barkley much this year. He's not really priced up. He's not really getting a ton of usage, and he's around that 10 fantasy point mark. There's no ceiling. He did have it early in the season at a big game, but nothing I see. I really like a lot of those backs that Bobby talked about and some of the guys I talked about recently.
As anyone who knows football, it's really hard to be a good running back when you have no offensive line. So Barkley has suffered from some of that. No run blocking offensive line, I should say. But I like the guys you mentioned. That what stood out to me though, what you said is something that I sort of breezed past a little bit too quick. Alexander Madison, I think I got sticker shocked a little bit. But the thing is, it's actually fair for his production when Cook's been out. I agree with that call. I actually think here's what's we mentioned that weird thing you could do a few weeks back. It was Mixon and somebody else, I can't remember, and it nailed it. But if you put it was Nixon, I think it was Mixon and Chubb both together, because Chubb ended up being popular, Mixon was unowned, and they both went off. Madison, getting 25 points out of him is a lot different than getting 25 out of Taylor. And to ask for 30 or more points from Taylor just feels like a lot. So playing Madison and Najee Harris as your spend ups at running back in one lineup together or something like that, I could see myself making that move. You know what I mean? And you get literally, you could do whatever you want with the rest of your lineup, because no one has that combination of running backs just to start off with.
Did you see what he did against Detroit last time he played, Madison?
What did he do?
When you pulled up the game log, you got 27.
Oh, 27 was the one. Yeah. I'll take 27 at 76. Absolutely.
He was only 6'2" at that time, but so it is a little priced up. But for last time, it was it wasn't even at Detroit. This week's at Detroit.
That was the one Detroit should have beaten Minnesota in Minnesota.
Yeah. This one's in Detroit, right? Either way, it's a dome game type game. So yeah, I don't mind it. I think everyone's got the sticker shock, and I think that's a good play. Is low owned against Detroit's been bad, right? Maybe Justin Jefferson and Thielen don't go off. Maybe Madison gets those 3 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson seems to fall down on the 1 yard line all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
so Madison could get 3 touchdowns from the 1, So, I don't know. I could see a 30-point game on him at 7-6.
It does feel like that with certain guys, but that's what great receivers. The defense is forcing them to. Oftentimes they're tackled or while they're breaking away. But sometimes you guys have guys catching the ball at the 1 yard line because the defense is trying to force you not in the goal line. You know what I mean? So it happens, but it does set things up. And it feels like it happens more with Jefferson than anybody. I do want to just throw out one other long shot name, because we're going to play all those other guys. Just James Robinson deserves to be in the conversation. I'm going to tell Sheets that I changed my mind. I think I preferred Jacobs to James Robinson straight up in his little league thing that he wanted some help on. But there's a lot of, I think to say my favorite of the options, they're probably going to be Jamal Williams, Antonio Gibson, and then it'll be a mixture of these other ones we talked about. Connor probably being the next one for me, Jacobs, a little bit of Montgomery in those game stacks, and then I want the spend ups to be Harris, Mixon, and some Madison. That's where I came away from this. All right, let's talk about wide receiver. Why don't you start off some of your favorite wide receivers? I know they're going to be paired with your quarterbacks in some cases, but they don't all have to be. And like a guy who stood out to me, but I'm not playing the quarterback and maybe I should have mentioned it as a quarterback, but I like Jalen. Jalen Waddle has looked really, really good, and they're finding him everywhere. Him and Tua are reigniting the college connection. And then you've got some really chalky guys like Laquan Treadwell, who early I thought was going to be like, oh, that's a cool play this week. But if he's really going to be 20% owned, I don't know if I need to do that. Who are you looking at this week?
Yeah, you got some of the other guys. Maybe we're not playing in game stacks. Brandon Cooks has been the guy lately. He looked like he was going to break out last week, but didn't. You got Renfro at 5'8". I still think he's getting a ton of work, a lot of dump offs. We might not be stacking up Las Vegas in that game, but you talk Jacobs, but I kind of tend to like their passing game a little bit more, I think. Mm-hmm. So Renfro and Gibson stack, secondary correlation, something. I kind of like that. You talked Ayuk at 5'6". He's the guy. Unfortunately, Debo is in my best ball lineup with Kupp, Terry McLaurin, and all of the Chargers. I have no idea how I got that lineup still, but I did. So that's a pretty good $20 milli best ball lineup that I hope to get to the top. DK's cheap. Mike Evans and Godwin are in that 6'6" to 6'7". You did talk about Tom Brady double stack, maybe with a couple 6K receivers. That they have been priced, not too high, and we've seen big games out of those guys. T. Higgins is probably going to get some love. What's his ownership at? Only 14.6. You got to find a run back in the Chargers. I do think that game can explode. We've seen, Cincinnati put up some points, and we've seen Chargers put up some points. So hopefully we get a big game in that game. I've been really heavy on Chase, but what's his price?
Chase is, I think he's pretty expensive now. He's really expensive, but let me see. He's really 7K.
Expensive. Only 7K.
That's actually reasonable enough. Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think he's going to get lower owned. That's 6%. My guy. I love it. Explosive upside. He hasn't been doing good. Play that with caution, guys. But these are some of the guys you want. You want DFS picks, lower owned, or I could just say, hey, look, play all these guys that like Keenan Allen at 26%. I mean, you think he's going to be 26? He wasn't as chalky as he was last week projected. But he's 7.5. That's a little bit priced up. I mean, he's been going up a little bit. He was like in the sixes, now up in the mid sevens. You know, what's my boy Mike Williams at?
Mike Williams is 5,700, buddy. Let's play Mike
but
Williams.
He's chalky this week.
But you know what?
With caution.
Yeah, but at the same time, if we're going to stack the game, he's less chalky than the other.
Stack the game, then play Najee Harris. Or try to figure out how to do that. Play cheap Mike Williams. Play Jamal Williams. Play Najee Harris. You could play T. Higgins in that stack to get cheaper over Chase and then Herbert or something. And, you know, we haven't got to the tight end yet, but Cook's been getting a touchdown here and there. You know, so, you know, there's some cheap options. And they got some cheap receivers there this week. So those are some of the guys. Let's see what Bobby's got here.
Yeah. No, I like everything you're saying. I mean, it's all go my value, guys. Like I think it's kind of crazy that this predicted, I think this ownership is not going to last, but I think that, you know, had to have 3 receivers from Jacksonville nearing 20% or higher than 20% ownership is kind of seems a little bit off to me. I probably would just take a shot on the cheapest with Treadwell, but if I was stacking the game, if I wanted to, but I might not even do that. I just think I'll probably skip it. I kind of like Juwan Jennings, and I like Josh Reynolds as my other cheap one. He does have a rapport with Jared Goff. He looked good last week. They always liked him in LA when he was there. He and Goff had a pretty decent connection. I love Mike Williams. I don't care that he's going to be owned. I'll be all over the Mike Williams and Brandon Ayuk in the same lineups thing, or the same price kind of a deal. You know what I mean? And you play those 2 guys together. So I really, really, really like. I really like that. Deontay Johnson. I like him, but it's too much ownership for me. I like the other guys you mentioned. I like the guys in our stacks. I love the Chase call. I also think that I like Higgins, but I'm happy to go ahead and play Boyd instead too.
Boyd. I didn't say him. He's good.
And we'll have, you know, if you use the cheaper running backs, we're going to have some money to spend. I think that I love McLaurin too, who's not going to be owned. But I really like taking a shot on just the ceiling guys. Metcalf, if he's in, and if Murray's in, also in Hopkins, I think I will take that shot on those 6K ish guys. I like the Chargers receivers. I like both of them. I already mentioned Williams, but I like Allen too, even though he's going to be popular. And if no one wants to play Cooper Kupp, he's going to break one of these, 35 fantasy point games off again. Maybe play Cooper Kupp and don't play Jonathan Taylor this week. Maybe that's the way to go. I think that's interesting. And look, Justin Jefferson, I understand he's expensive and he's always in single digits, but is it me, or is it every time you look at the winning lineup, the 2 times it wasn't like Jefferson, I feel like it was Thielen or something, So I do think the Minnesota passing game is another way to play that, to attack against that Detroit defense. But mostly you mentioned, I think we mentioned most of the guys. I would take a shot on Devontae Smith this week at no ownership. Just the talent levels there, and the Jets, they should have 1 million possessions in this game, and I think they could take some shots deep against the Jets here. So I do like that. And I think Chase Claypool is a terrific pivot off of Deontay Johnson to try and go that route. But other than that, it's mostly the guys you mentioned. Oh, and the Tampa Bay receivers, both of them. Heavier on Godwin, but he's going to be more popular, so I might switch that over to Mike Evans. But that's pretty much what I got.
No, I like a lot of what you said. And I also want to go back to that Josh Reynolds. I do like that call. And that would be a good little secondary correlation too. If you're trying to find a run back to the Minnesota guys, you could do Josh Reynolds and Madison, or Thielen and Reynolds or something, if you want to get in that game and think it's going to score some points.
Yep.
I do like that. And then we called out Thielen on the show last week. I think we liked, we say that 2 touchdown thing every time with that guy, and he ended up doing it, so you want to be on that. I do like those calls, and I like that Devontae Smith call and Claypool. The 6K range I really like. Those 5-7 guys, 5-6 Ayuk, Mike Williams, and those type of plays. I really like that range, I think.
Yep. Yeah, same. That's the range I'm going to be living in. All right, so tight end this week. I'll start this one off real quick. It's I like Kittle. I think that Pitts is getting a little too much love, but I'm not too. Actually, it's not actually as bad as I thought it was going to be. I like Kittle and Pitts as my spend ups. I think TJ Hawkinson would be the other guy I'd consider. And even Gronk, of course, makes some sense, but I just think I'm probably at that point going to pay up for those other two guys. Dallas Goddard, I think, is going to be way underowned. I want to attack some of this stuff against the Jets. So maybe I'm going to play a little more Hurts than I thought. I think Goddard is completely in play at 4,500. And then scrolling down, I have some weird ones that I like. And one of them is CJ Uzoma. I know I've mentioned him before and I've been wrong sometimes and I've been right a couple times. I think I've been wrong 4 times and right twice. I think Uzoma against the Chargers defense that just gets killed by these tight ends and weird ones too. Like the game I was at in Njoku had, I think, like 170 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns or something, or 170 and a touchdown. I think there's a ceiling for Uzoma, and it's another way to get different exposure to that game we love to target. So I wouldn't mind doing that. Like if I was going to do a Burrow or even a stack with Herbert, I think running it back with him and one of the other wide receivers is an interesting route. You know, with him and one of Boyd, Chase, Higgins. I'm sorry, Boyd, Chase, or Higgins. So he's my guy on the cheap end. I'm trying to think if there's anybody I'm missing, but those are my main guys. Who are you looking at this week? Oh, Cole Kmet also is the other one. Sorry.
God, you had to say Cole. You had to say Cole Kmet.
Cole Kmet and Foster Moreau chalk.
Foster Moreau at 2.7 might be the guy. I will play him over Cole Kmet. I don't know if I'll have one share of Cole Kmet. Guys killed me every time I get on that chalk. He was in a good lineup that one time and busted me out. I do like Kyle Pitts and Kittle. I think they're too cheap at the under 6K. You got Mark Andrews under at 6K exactly. So there's some definitely good pay-ups if you want. I think, Mark Andrews, you can combo with a Najee secondary stack. Jared Cook again at 3-1. I do like that play. I always tell myself, just play Herbert, Allen, and Cook. And life would be really good for me right now. I had a couple big weeks, so I would have got off the Mike Williams earlier in the year. I would have just played Allen and Cook. I would have been fine, but I didn't. So here we are again. Mike Williams is back at it. So we'll see how we do again this weekend. But Goddard I like. Tyler Higbee's coming down, and we talked that Rams game. We like some Cup there in that game. You could stack with Higbee's not only 3.8, guys. He's been kind of disappearing. He did have a monster game at 3.8 with the Stafford in a good matchup. I like him sneaking in for a couple touchdowns. Fairmouth at 4.2. You could go that route again. He seems to be eating some touchdowns. So those are a couple guys I like at lower ownership, I think. And Logan Thomas in that game's only 3.8 too, and I mean he was getting a couple catches already out of the gate when he was limited last week. So at 4K, I mean he looked explosive for us at one point. He was getting a lot of work early in the season. So I think they kind of found a groove there in Washington, and that game could be something we want pieces out of. Renfro, Jacobs, we talked about, running back with Terry or Logan Thomas in that game. So get some secondary. If we're not stacking it up, you talk Gibson, you might want a couple pieces in that game just to kind of secondary correlate that. And Logan Thomas could be a guy at 4K if you're looking for a tight end that's reasonably cheap with upside. Yeah,
absolutely. I think both tight ends in that game, both tight ends in the Cincy game are the overlooked ones who I really like too. So I kind of agree with that. Cook's going to be low owned, but I would just say that Uzoma, the only difference between Cook is the ceiling I feel like is higher for Uzoma than it is for Cook. I mean, just based on what they've done this season. But and he gets also has got a much lower floor, which is 0. But I like everybody you mentioned there, and I really like the Higbee and Logan Thomas call because I think that those are two guys I didn't have initially in my write up, and I think I might play some of that. Although I'm more likely to end up just going back to Goddard in the majority of my lineups. Defense, I think number one, the weird thing is it's going to be the Eagles' defense is going to be the most popular. I don't understand what I'm missing as to why the Dolphins won't be. Oh, they don't have a projection on their ownership. That's why. I'm waiting on, I guess, the information from New York. But I would feel like the Dolphins are the easiest defensive play, even at 33. I know it's paying a little bit more for it, but we have some cheap tight ends and some cheap running backs. You could spend a little bit up. I mean, it's been worth it to get the right defenses the last few weeks. And they've been cheap, for the most part. But having the Bengals and Dolphins last week felt like it felt incredible, except for the fact that one kind of canceled the other one out, but they were both low owned and really in really good spots. I think that you have a lot of good defenses at more than usual that I want to pay for in the 3K range. I usually want to pay all the way down. and I probably will in some. Washington is one that I've considered. The Giants are one that I considered. But I'm not finding that absolutely bottom one that I like as much as I have previous weeks. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I got a different update on my projection here. Dolphins show about 13%. So right there with those other two defenses.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Makes sense. Just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, I haven't really found a cheap one this week. There's no absolute Houston 2K pump for 16 points that we got that one week. That was awesome. I don't know. I do like those 3Ks. Yeah, Washington, Carr does throw turnovers a lot. No, Las Vegas, but yeah, I don't mind that call. It's probably the cheapest I'm going to go. The Texans are playing Indy. Wentz has thrown some picks before. I know they're like a either score 3 or score 16 type of defense. I don't know if I want to pump, but I mean, I do like those 3K ones. I think Miami's good. The Dolphins at 3-3.
The Dolphins are
if you
rolling.
If you really think Seattle sucks, you got San Fran at 3K.
Yeah.
If you want to get that play in, and yeah.
I mean, I just looking at the Dolphins, they've put up double-digit points in 3 of the 13, 14, and 13. And people say, oh yeah, those are bad teams. Well, except for Baltimore. Well, Baltimore depends on the week you catch them, I guess. But you say, oh,
they're like roller coaster.
Yeah, but Miami's playing the Giants this week, who's a bad team. Like, this is another great spot for them, especially if we do have a backup quarterback, which is looking like it's going to be the case. But I after covering everything, I do think getting a little different at the running back position is one good way to go this week. I also love the Ayuk play and some of these other, lower owned wide receivers, the Claypool Ayuk, instead of like, the other guys in that range who are going to be 1,000,000% owned, like Brandon Cooks and all that. Maybe take a shot with Brandon Ayuk and Claypool and or something like that. You get a combined 8% ownership or whatever. I really like that. I like the Najee Harris, Madison type of thing. But I will say I'm going to have a weird hot take this week, and that is that 2 players from the San Francisco-Seattle game, even if it is a blow, even whatever, 2 players are going to be on the optimal. And they might even both be on San Francisco, but that's how I'm looking at it. Do you have any sort of hot takes for us this week before we get out of here?
No, but I do agree with you. I do like that Mitchell DK Metcalf secondary correlation. So that could be a potential 2 players you're talking about.
All right. I love it. I mean, yeah, people have to count. And by the way, Kittle too, like Samuel being out takes away a ton of their usage. I mean, just even in the running game alone. Anyway, he does open things up for them on the flip side. But all right, guys, this is our weekly picks. We will be with you at 11:30 Eastern on Sunday morning, and we are going to hopefully make somebody from TrueDFS a millionaire. Hopefully it's either me, Rohde, or one of you guys out there. Sheets can win the 500,000. He'll be happy with that. Anyway, guys, good luck to everybody this week. And Rohde, thanks always for being here. For Rohde, for everyone at TrueDFS, I'm Bobby saying, let's get it.
Peace. Let's get it.